Okay. We're holding on Kuf Samach Aleph, 3 lines from the top, or Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba. We thank Hashem we're able to learn Torah every day. In the source of our learning, Hashem the Beis Hamikdash immediately. Learning Lulin Nishmas, Zabi Golda Basbar Pinyamin, and the sounds of Ben Mencian. Right, we can learn Lulin Nishmas for the Kaddishes. Finish saying Kaddish already. And for Shlema, for Avram David and Sarah, that gets the last. And also father. And Miriam, and Ben Miriam Adel. Okay. We were discussing the difference between a get pashat and a get makusher. Get pashat was a simple document, and get makusher was a document that was tied. Had a lot of folds in it, and each one was tied. We learned, according to the Rashbam, that there was a blank line in between every line, and the way it was folded was that you folded it up. Now, where were the signatures? We had a discussion. Rav Huna says that it was signed. The Gemara started that it was signed on the inside, and then afterwards we said no, that was signed on the outside. Why does it matter how it's signed? Why does it matter how it's signed? They made it very complicated. The Gemara says they made it very complicated because this was a document that was used by Kayanim. Kayanim would get very angry. They would like flare into a rage. And they would divorce their wives and they couldn't remarry them. So they made it very complicated for them to get the divorce done. So you have to sign it and tie it, and this was done very in a complicated way. That way they would calm down by the time they got it done. And so anyway.
Today they have like 2-step authentication, like to open anything.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Make things complicated.
That's right. So Rav Huna, originally we thought that it was going to be signed in the fold, and then you folded it up, it would be on the inside in between every line. Then we said no, it's actually signed on the back, according to Rav Huna. But where's it signed on the back? It's signed in the fold, right? It was signed in the fold on the back. It was on the back. It was signed in the folds on the back, but it wasn't that side wasn't sewn, so you could still see the signature. That's how Rebbe didn't claim that document was no good, because he was able to see the signatures. It was only no good because he couldn't see the date. Then we said, okay, so what about Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba? That's what we're holding now. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba damar acheri aksav ukneged aksav mibachutz. He says that you sign directly opposite the writing. In other words, if you would have paper that was thin, you would be able to see through and see where it is, but you don't have paper that's thin, it's parchment. So you would have to turn it over, see where the writing is on this side, turn it over on this side, and you would sign.
Sign both sides, or just sign?
Just sign exactly opposite the bottom line.
Oh, okay.
Of the other side. The Gemara says, "Dilma kasev migavoy, my boy." And Machtem Sadi Yisayim, I've read that. And take out those words. V'amar anol rabbis beidem udavdi. It's a problem. No, because it's not going to help me. Problem is like this. The signatures, they do several things. The signatures. First of all, they tell me that it's valid, right? But they mark off where's the end of this document. It's very significant for them to say that the document is ended and anything that's written under the signatures is not part of the document. Now, if they're signing on the inside, then they would mark off the end of the document. They're signing on the outside. How do they mark off the end of the document? So what we're saying is they're going to sign on the bottom line, on the opposite side. Now, it sounds ridiculous. Why should he sign on the other side of a document? And the reason why they're doing it like this is to make a distinction between a get pashat and a get makusher. Why do they want to make a distinction between a get pashat and a get makusher? Because they want it to be confusing. They want the people that are going to make the get makusher to say, I'm not really sure how to do this. They want to make it like, so where exactly do we sign? They're making it more sophisticated. Okay, so you have to sign on the back of the document. And the problem is like this. If you sign on the back of the document, then the front of the document, you could still continue writing. Now, if you sign on the back of the document on the bottom line, so how do you continue writing on the front? They'll see. You continue too far. I said, don't worry about it. You'll add signatures on the other side. But if you add signatures and you're going to be getting witnesses, they're going to testify to what's written on the front. It says, well, you'll forge those signatures on the back. But if you forge those signatures, then how are you going to get it verified? Well, you don't have to verify every signature. So you'll only verify the signatures that are higher up. The signatures that are lower down are forged, and you'll be able to extend the document.
So the requirement to write Shrir V'Kayam at the end.
Very good.
Is that like a double check? Have to have signatures and that phrase?
Yeah, 1 second. I have to tell you something. I saw this in the Tosfos, and Tosfos says somewhere that they didn't say. Maybe it's in Tosfos V'Gayas that Shorer V'Kayam was only written on a get pashat, not on a get makusher.
Oh.
Another distinction to make it complicated for people to say, so what do I write next? You know, like to slow you down in the process, right? So, Amarle. So the response here, this was Rami Bar Chama, right? Was asking Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda responds, Mi sabris edim kasidron chasime, edim mimata l'mayla chasime. They're not signing if this is the document. This is the document here. So the document was written down like this. They turn it over on this side. Hey, look at that. That's a signature. They signed upwards. So it's just like this. So they were signing perpendicular to the writing. So if that's the case, you can't get. Well, actually, this is interesting. You really could. But what we're saying is if they're writing up this way, so then you can't get, they would sign one signature, another signature along the doc. Doesn't matter where on the document, could be up on the side, in the middle, wherever it is, but it's starting from the bottom line. So once you start from the bottom line, so then you can't add signatures under it and add writing on the other side. You start on the bottom line. Now the problem is, of course, you can add a signature under it. You add another signature. You just sign underneath it, and you try to match it to fit perfectly. So Rabbeinu Gershon,
Right up and down again.
there was an early language where they would write this way, because from right to left, and on the way back they would write this way, and then they would go that way.
Oh, wow.
The letters would one of those early languages would go like that.
That was Hebrew?
No,
in Hebrew?
I don't think in Hebrew that was like that, but in the earth they have like these what do they call? Something like that. But they have on these like clay tablets and base. They have like this writing, and some of it goes like weird. They think it goes backwards and forward.
Wow.
Next line would go down. So Rabbeinu Gershon said over here. Yeah. He says, it's hard to find it, but anyway, it's towards the bottom. He says, Mishum Payil de Tzarech Lachtem Imat Lamayla Ksharchsum Lematzi Letzamtzum Lachabin Shleit Yechsim Asasis Ktsarsa Yeruches Achrenis Yesim Neshenis Makam Edim Imazaya Fike Kerebach. Rabbeinu Gershon says that if they would have to add a signature to the beginning of the line to extend the beginning of the signatures, like to put one beforehand, then you probably won't be able to get it spaced properly, and you're going to have to stretch letters or squeeze letters. And because of that, we're going to see that you added that later and to squeeze it in. And so we're going to be able to tell that you added a signature. Now, okay, whatever. you could estimate it and get it in if you wanted to do it. You know what I'm saying? You sign it somewhere else and you hold it underneath it, and then you write it in. You could do it.
What's the problem with adding a signature?
Because adding a signature means that you added phrases, you added sentences on the other side of the page.
But I guess you don't know by the number, because you could have so many signatories if you wanted.
Yeah, and you're working your way up, and we're thinking it's all on the line now.
Yeah. So the signatures would be side to side or above and below?
We're thinking now that the signatures are all on one line working its way up.
Yeah, so they're side to side.
From bottom to top. Or maybe
but I mean,
middle.
The signatures are in one row of multiple people.
Yeah.
Kinda
That's what we're thinking right now.
Like in a check, have a big enough space for $100, you write it out. 2,100, you have a big enough space.
Right. So if you don't start at the beginning.
Yeah.
When they have checks with two signatures, are they side by side? The signature? Do they have checks with two signatures? They do.
They have two lines.
One on top of another?
Yeah, some do.
Okay.
So, but go back. The reason, we were given for this was to slow things down, so Kohanim who have a hot temper calm down. But then it was used for all get, right? Including commercial getting.
We used it for other documents for Kayanim.
Oh, so this really is just limited to Kohanim.
Yeah.
To get Makusher.
Right.
So if a Kohen wanted to sell his, I don't know, something, this would be the kind of document that was used.
That's what it seems, yeah. So that would mean it would slow down his business transactions also.
It sure would.
He wouldn't be able to sell and buy, the stocks and things, the quick trading. The sign to make that. Okay. Gemara says, "V'leichosh," if that's your teretz, that you're signing upwards, perpendicular to the writing on the back of the document. Let's suspect Dilma Misramia Reyesa Bashita Achreina. Maybe something negative is going to be on the last line of the document, on the other side, on the written side of the document. But guys, you'll cut off the bottom line. Over there it says that all of this is going to be relevant if you pay such and such amount of money, if there's some stipulation on the bottom line. What you'll do is you'll cut off the end, the last, including the last signature. We're thinking the signature's name was Ruvain ben Yaakov Eid. That's the typical name. Today we would say Smith, something, John Smith. But they Ruvain ben Yaakov Eid. So what we're going to do is we're going to say the bottom line that had the word Ruvain written perpendicular to it, we'll chop that off. Or not we will, but the liar that wants to get rid of the bottom line of the document will cut off the Ruvain on one side and the bottom line on the other side. And I'll say it's still kosher because it says Ben Yaakov Eid. And the Tanan, and we have a Mishnah that says Ben Ish Pliny Eid kosher. You don't have to use your first name when you're signing. Use son of Yaakov. I assume we know that there's maybe only one son, maybe, I don't know. What is that? He learned his, yeah. So, the Gemara answers, Diksiv Ruvain ben b'chad dara b'Yaakov eidi lavei. We're talking about, and this is how it has to be, where you have to write Ruvain ben on the same line, and then it would say Yaakov eid on the next line. And so when you're going to cut off the bottom line, you're going to be cutting off Ruvain and Ben. So that's how you have to write this document. It's very strict how they're going to do this. If his name is, second one, Ruvain's son of. Yeah. If his name is a nice long name, I don't know, Achashverosh or something, and then we'll have to put Ben all in that same line, right?
Don't the Spanish have like two names or something?
Like a hyphenated.
Yeah, they have some.
That would be a
Double
last
name.
name. Right.
Two first names, two last
Those the royalty, it's very long names. Okay. Reuven ben Bechadar Yaakov Eidi Lavei. They'll put Yaakov Eid on the top. The Gemara says, well, that's still not such a problem. I mean, which creates a problem. That's going to still create a problem because Valecher still Magayas Le Reuven ben and Miskasha Yaakov Eid. That's also acceptable. Ditnan Ish Pliny Eid Kosher. You don't have to write your father's name for it to be kosher. So maybe it's just Yaakov. Maybe that's the witness, is Yaakov. And he wrote Yaakov.
We spoke earlier about if a signature had, we weren't sure which Yaakov it was.
Yeah, that's the problem. Well, you'll see in the Gemara. The Gemara's going to answer half of that. The Gemara answers the like siv aid. It doesn't say the word aid. Apparently, in a get pashut you write aid, and a get makusha you don't write aid. So it can't just say Yaakov. It has to say Ruvain ben Yaakov. Iba Yasema. Or maybe you can answer Li'olam dekasav aid. Really, it does say aid. And the Yadinan ba the hachasimas yada lav the Yaakov. But we know that it's not Yaakov. We know Yaakov signature, and this isn't Yaakov, so you can't get away with that. No, Yaakov has different handwriting. That's not setting things up properly. I mean, that's a little scary because maybe not, maybe we won't know, maybe that's not. Okay, the Gemara says Vidilma b'shmei davu chasim, but maybe when it comes to signatures, signatures don't have to be legible. Right? Signature could be any signature. There's, whatever people sign. Ask a doctor, right? So maybe the way he signs over here is he just signs his father's name. Can you have any signature? Can you go into the bank? They say, okay, sign your name, and so you sign, I don't know, Winston Churchill. You sign your name. You sign that, and that becomes, can that be your official signature, even though it's not your name? And
Yes.
if it matches your ID, if you do that consistently, then that's fine. Yeah. So, maybe he signs out of respect. He signs for his father's name. That's the way he always signs. The Gemara says, people don't do that. That's not the way. Now, where are we holding now? So if people don't do that, So then if he writes Yaakov Aid, we know it's not Yaakov, because Yaakov doesn't sign like that. But maybe it's his son that signs Yaakov. You say no, your son, that's not a concern, because his son is not gonna doesn't sign Yaakov. So basically, right now we're not concerned that he's gonna cut it off. The document, leave Ruvain Ben, leaving Yaakov Aid there, and say, because we know that it's not Yaakov, and we know that his son doesn't sign Yaakov. Okay. The Dilma Simana Ba'almahu Deshavye. Maybe he's writing something that's not legible. And you're allowed to make even a picture as your signature. Right? Signature could be a picture also. Remember that the signature of the Chida was like a boat? You did that. Do we still have that here? Yeah. Do you see this? See the Chida signature down there?
Oh, wow.
He made it look like a boat. You see that? They put it on each thing. This is supposed to be a boat. Or with the mast or something. So yeah, that was a story when he was almost thrown overboard by someone that wanted him to write a letter that his cheese was kosher. Remember that? He wrote he wrote the date on it. The Shabbat, it was Parshas Shalach, I think. Over there it says Masnechem Chagurim. Your belts are tied when you eat the Korban Pesach. He says the Shabbos Parshas Masnechem Chagurim. When it came to the towns, they said, "What is this?" Like a random pasuk that he used. They looked up in the Targum. The Targum says Chartzeichan Yahain Asirin. And the word chatzechan, which means a belt, also means cheese. And so they understood that he meant that what really wasn't kosher. He wrote a document that it's kosher. They told him, if you don't write that this is kosher, we'll throw you overboard or something. So he wrote that. And then, that was like a code. Okay. Anyway, maybe he's just making some sort of simon. The Harav Tzayer Kavra. Rav would sign his name as a fish. He would just make a picture of a fish. And what else do we have? Rabbi Chanina Tzayer Charusa. Rabbi Chanina would sign his name as a palm branch, which would just be like a line with like things sticking out, like a lulav, like a line sticking out, like the back of an arrow, right? And Rav Chizda Samach. Rav Chizda would just make a Samach, like the middle letter of his name. Rav Hoshia an ayin. He just made an ayin. And Rabba Bar Rav Huna Makusa. And Rabba Bar Rav Huna made a mast, like that Chida signature. On the side of my Gemara, I'm not sure who's writing this, but I have a note here. It says that the reason why Rabba Bar Rav Huna made a mast for a signature is because there was a time in the Gemara Shabbos where it talks about what type of stones you can use on Shabbos to clean yourself after the bathroom. So in that Gemara, Rabba Bar Rav Huna was on a boat, and there was a woman there said, "Let me sit with you, or sit with us, or something," and she was going to do witchcraft. So they said no, and she stopped the boat with witchcraft. So they said a name or something. They said something, and the boat continued. And she said, the reason why I can't affect you on the boat is because you're very careful what you use to clean yourself, and you don't do this and you don't do that. There's like a bunch of things that witchcraft doesn't affect you. So this comment on the side is saying that after that, he was saved on the boat. He started to make a signature as a mast. That's I don't have the explanation for the other ones. I don't have an explanation for Rav. Yeah. Who was the one that prepared a fish on Shabbos? Do you remember? Who prepared a fish? If I want it. No. Dushin, right? And it was Shabbos also. But I wonder if that's Rav that prepared the fish. No. Rav Safra prepared and a Rava salted a fish. It was Rava, not Rav. Okay. Well, okay, that's their simon, and maybe that's what the person just making an ineligible. What's how do you say? An not a illegible signature, right? Illegible signature. So the Gemara says, it can't be that a person would make his father's signature, his father's name, as an illegible signature for himself. He wouldn't do that. So Mar Zutra Amar, so where we're holding now, we're holding that that we're signing on the perpendicular, and we have some complications because maybe you'll cut off the bottom signature, you'll truncate the signature. You cut off part of it and you leave the rest there. It may be saying Yaakov Aid, which that would be acceptable. And they said, well, we know it's not Yaakov. So anyway, Mar Zutra's Amar, Lamalach Kuli Hai. What is the concern? You with me?
I remember that story, and there was one point missing. He wrote, when he wrote, what do you call it? Basnechem Chagorim. He wrote, "Oh, good babe with Aleph." So that was the hint, not the shalach.
Oh, it's in by, in by.
So, but the thing was, if you're gonna write Pereth Yud Beis Yud Aleph, what do you have to say Parshas Bo for?
Oh.
So it was a redundant. So that was a hint. Go look in there. There's something I mean, and then you look up and it says and you look in Targum and it says
Yeah.
So you have to give a hint.
Yud Beis Yud Aleph. Dr. Stein is here. He said he wrote Boy, Parshas Boy, Yud Beis Yud Aleph. And over there it says Masnechem Chagurim, Chartzechen Yehin Asirin. Yeah. Very nice.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
you thought I was just walking the door. My daughter.
So Mar Zutra says, why are you so concerned? We have a simple solution. Kol makusha shein edav kolim b'shita achas pasal. Mar Zutra is saying is that really what's happening is they're not signing all on one line going up perpendicular. What they're doing is they're all signing on the same line, not on the same. They're all signing on lines underneath. You know, we need 3 signatures, right, for get makusha. So it's one under the other, and now you can't cut off just a name. Names are different sizes, but they all have to start at the same point. So you can't just cut off the bottom line on the other side by truncating these signatures. You're going to get messed up. This one is Ruvain, this one is God, this one. You're not going to be able to cut it evenly.
To the 80 mana get Makusher sign on the fold? Maybe I assumed that because we rather somewhere that the number of witnesses have to be a minimum of 3 because there are a minimum of 3 folds.
Here we're not saying that. Here it looks like
No.
they're signing on the open part of it, not on the open, on the part that's not full. That's what it seems.
Huh.
Or maybe they signed and then it got full. No, it can't be because Rebbe didn't see it. Rebbe saw the signatures. It has to be on the open part. Actually, it's not true because according to Rav Huna, it was on the fold and it was also on the open part because it was on the back of the fold where it was able to be open. So, yeah, it seems that it was on the open part. On the we're talking about that all the signatures here, they all have to start and end, right? You would have to stretch them out to be exactly the same. Yeah, that's what it seems according to Mar Zutra. Amar Rab Yitzchak bar Yosef, Amar Rab Yochanan. Rab Yitzchak bar Yosef says in the name of Rab Yochanan, Kolam mechakim kulam tzarech sheyichtavu b'dein kiyumeim. They take out the word b'dein. You have to write if you see Rab Yochanan before said that if you have any erasure on a document, you invalidate the document if the erasure is the size of the words sharer v'kayam. Because maybe you erased the sharer v'kayam, you added words into the document, you wrote sharer v'kayam again, and so that would be invalid. Here Rabbi Yochanan is saying that anything maybe that would be less than the words sharer v'kayam, any smaller, you added in the word or. Yeah. Erase the and add or. So that would change a lot of details, right? So you have to write on the bottom of the document that the Dain Kiyumayim, and this is its validation, that you're validating that there's an erasure there, like similar today, you would make initials, you would initial it. So on the bottom, before the signatures, you'd have to write, before Shar V'Kayim, you have to write Dain Kiyumayim. He adds in another point. He says that the last line of a document is not allowed to say anything new. It only has to repeat. So what we do is we say, and the Kanina, and he made a kinyan regarding all that was mentioned above. That's the bottom line of the document. Because if you add anything new into the bottom line, maybe you're adding it after signatures. Well, not after signatures, but maybe the witnesses signed, left a little space, and they signed, and then you're filling in some extra words over there. So we can't say anything new. My timer
That sentence, like they write the body and then the last sentence
is and
so if it would be a separate line that's space.
right. So my time, Rav Amram says Vishain Lamed Mishita Achrayna, because you can't learn from the bottom line, because it's possible that the witnesses, when they signed, they left a little space, and then they made the signatures. Okay. Amar le Rav Nachman le Rav Amram. Nachman says to Rav Amram, Minolacha. How do you know that you can't learn from the bottom line? You can't add anything new, any new statements in the bottom line, any stipulations or anything on the bottom line of the document. Amalei de Tanya, he says, I have a source from a brisa. It says, puzzle. If the witnesses signed and they left two empty lines underneath the end of the document, then the document is puzzle. You have to sign very close to the end of the document. You can't leave lines. Now the problem is that sometimes they leave a line because they don't want to sign first. Let's say you're ready to sign, but the other aide over there who's older than you, or maybe he's a kohen or something, should be signing first. He should go first. So you leave a space for him, and you signed under. Then when he shows up, he signs on the. He signed on the. Oh, you signed already. Okay, he signs underneath. So you end up with an empty line. So it says, okay, one line, shita achas, one line, that's acceptable. That's kosher. That happens. But maishna shnei shitin. What's the problem with two lines? Dilma mezayef, because of, and maybe if there's two lines, maybe you're going to add in things that the witnesses didn't attest to, and you added that in after the signatures because it was an empty space. And if that's the case, shitachas nami mezayef because of. If there's one line, you'll also have that problem. They'll also add in something. My answer is
the Adam is signing in the other spaces of the fold, not where the scribe would have written. So how does it make a difference, one or two? Either way, it's not the line where the scribe would be adding his information. They're each using a different. One's using the dark line, and one's using the light line. The fold.
That was Rav Huna, according to Rav Huna.
That was only according.
Yeah. Now we're going on the Rav Yirmiyah Barabba, who says they're writing perpendicular on the back of the document, starting from the bottom line, and they're working their way up. So you can't write anything after the signatures began on the other side of the page. Perpendicular. Yeah. Yeah. So the Gemara says, Elalav, this is Rav Amram explaining to Rav Nachman, Elalav, Shema Mina, Ein Lameda Mishita Achreina. Why is one line not a problem? Because that line doesn't tell me anything anyway. The bottom line of the document has to repeat everything that's said, so you can't add anything into that line. If you do add, it's nothing is derived from that, because you didn't say it in the main part of the document. You didn't mention that. You can't add anything new into that end of the Shema Mina. Okay, we finished the Kuf Samach base. We're a drop ahead, so let's leave it over here.
It's the source of having like when you write something.
Go
Many
ahead.
people they write like based on a dollar or based.
Yeah.
Thank